Let's return to the topic we've already discussed. This is the topic of faith, the connection between faith and fate. People whose faith is in degradation, their fate goes downward. Figuratively speaking, they crawl on all fours along the path of their fate. This means that they overcome everything very slowly. That means that they suffer, stumble, stop. Sometimes they draw back and crawl again. They solve the same problem again and again. These people slow down their karma, and part of their prarabdha karma can even transfer to the next life. They don't fulfill the tasks destined by their fate. The reason is unwillingness to overcome one's fate. What is degradation? Degradation is when a person's consciousness remains in the past. Consciousness can be in the future. It means life in passion. When consciousness is in the present, it means a person lives in pure goodness. Consciousness in the past means life in degradation. When consciousness is attached to the past, a person says, there were real people in the past, not like the current generation. They were heroes, not like you. Such a person lives in the past, constantly saying, you are not heroes, you're doing everything wrong. We were the heroes. Or they constantly think about the past. The person keeps thinking about the past. 10 years have passed. The person already has a new relationship, but they're still thinking about that love that's long gone. This is called life in degradation. A person doesn't live, but merely exists. Living in degradation for women means depression, and for men it means drinking. One does not always take an active position in life in degradation. Often people think that if a person drinks, uses drugs, fights, engages in shadow business, debauchery, or criminal activities, then a person is in degradation. This is the male type of degraded life, but there's also a female type. The female type of life in degradation is sleeping for 10 hours, being in depression, doing nothing, and just thinking about the past, about how good things were before. And now, everything is bad. This is the female type of degraded life. If a woman lives like this, finds a drunkard and marries him, she shouldn't be surprised because people get what they deserve. They get what they deserve. Of course, it happens that a woman practices spiritual life, gets married, and gets a husband who drinks. This means that she has a very difficult fate, that she lived like this in the past. She got such a fate that she needs to overcome this bad karma from the past. But this doesn't mean she lives in degradation. She just has a difficult fate, that's all. A degraded life means that a person's consciousness is attached to the past. One is depressed and doesn't want to live right. Such a person is humiliated, depressed, and lives an unhappy life. This is called faith in degradation. Remember, a person's life always depends on faith. If you analyze deeply why does a person live a degraded life, you find out that it is because their faith is in degradation. What is faith in degradation? If you look deeply into the hearts of people who live in degradation, what will you find there? They carry in their hearts global conspiracies. Our country is bad, people are bad, I was betrayed. I'm doing my best for everyone's sake, but I was betrayed. And so on. I'm more or less a good person in this world. Everyone else is completely bad. I was betrayed. I suffered. I was abandoned. The minds of these people are filled with the idea of global conspiracy, evil eye, curses, various hexes. They think they need to prepare for nuclear war or that everyone needs to be killed, and so on and so forth. That means they have only negativity in their minds. If a person is in a negative state of mind, they are really full of negativity. This means they live in degradation, and it means that this person barely overcomes their fate. Actually, they don't overcome it at all. They just exist, slowly following their fate. Next, the second option. This is faith in passion and life in passion. What is faith in passion and life in passion? It means that a person believes in luck. They believe that someday luck will come into their life. As one song says, the bird of happiness of tomorrow came flying with ringing wings. Choose me, bird of happiness of tomorrow. That means tomorrow will be better than yesterday. Better than yesterday, better than yesterday. Tomorrow will be better than yesterday. The best song hasn't been sung yet. Where are you, the best girl? Although the wife is standing right there, the man thinks everything is still ahead. A person believes in luck, believes in the future, believes that everything will be good someday. You just need to wait. Hello, how are you? Everything will be fine. Yes, everything will be fine. This is faith in passion. What does faith in pure goodness mean? When a person is asked, how are you? They reply, we're working on ourselves to improve our life. This is faith in pure goodness. That means that a person makes efforts. Faith in pure goodness means that they do something today to make everything good. They simply overcome their fate, that's all. This is called faith in pure goodness. If a person doesn't want to overcome their fate, one is a pessimist, then this pessimism means degradation. If a person believes that someday they will overcome fate, but they are just lacking luck now, in this case they live in passion. If a person believes that they will never overcome fate, everything is bad, then they are in degradation. Now regarding people in passion walk along the road stumbling. They walk along the road but constantly stumble, constantly encounter some obstacles. When they have a good period, they walk joyfully, they are successful. When it's a bad period, they stumble and fall face first into the mud. Passion always implies some degree of degradation. If a person is in passion, they always have breakdowns. This is a sign of passion. In pure goodness, there are no breakdowns. Pure goodness means you have no breakdowns, but if a person lives in passion, they sometimes drink too much, sometimes cheat, and so on. This means that passion still strongly influences them. They are not completely in pure goodness. Pure goodness means that a person runs along their fate. They sometimes stumble too, it happens. But when they stumble, they don't fall, they keep going. Why? Because they believe in God. They might slow down their rhythm of movement along fate, but they never fall. If a person falls, it means it's a very difficult period in life. Actually, people in pure goodness can fall. Yes, those in pure goodness can fall too, but they get up immediately. That's the difference. If a person in passion falls, they lie in the mud for some time, then slowly get up. That's in the best case. You understand? But if someone in pure goodness falls, they get up immediately and keep going. They are enthusiastic, don't believe in defeat. A person in pure goodness only believes in victory. They believe that everything will be good in life. That's the meaning. A person always lives in one of these three layers of life, but is always influenced by the other two as well, meaning there's influence on all people. How to determine where I live? What is the criterion of your life? If, for instance, you ultimately slow down, that means degradation. If you're fussing around, it means you're in passion. If you're calm and sober, moving forward joyfully and mostly in a good mood, it means you're in pure goodness. If you're mostly in a business-like mood, it means you're in passion. If you're mostly in a bad mood, it means you're in degradation. If you're mostly in a joyful mood, it means you're in pure goodness. You understand? People in pure goodness are also business-like, but they put business in second place. That means that a passionate person always depends on their activities. As a result, their free time decreases. They have no time for spiritual life. A person in pure goodness puts spiritual life above everything, but at the same time doesn't abandon their duties. Now the next scenario, when a seemingly righteous person abandons their duties. They say, why should I work? I'll just pray. I don't want to be useful to anyone. I just want to think about God. So I leave my children and my wife. I just sit, pray, and demand donations from everyone. This is not pure goodness, this is hidden passion. This person is in passion. Their faith is in passion, they live for their own benefit, but they perceive this benefit in a very elevated way. There are primitive people who think that benefit means house, apartment, family, children. They think this is the supreme goal, and one should work for this. These people live in passion, they are honest workers. So they honestly fulfill their duty. At the same time, they have no free time to go to a temple and to pray, for example. They gradually get tired of life. Gradually it becomes harder and harder for them to live, because that's how passion works. That means that fatigue gradually increases in the heart of a person in passion. A person in pure goodness is one who studies how to live correctly. So naturally they place God in the first place. They necessarily dedicate their energy to family, homeland, people in general, and health as well, but they place all of this in the second place. That means that a person in pure goodness maintains all aspects of life in balance. If a person only pays attention to what they place in the first place, but ignores secondary things, then it's passion. That means that the person acts out of personal benefit. So a person in passion is always acting out of personal benefit, but one is acting within the laws. If a person breaks the law, that's already life in degradation. Action for personal benefit within the laws means passion, and selfless action means pure goodness. I repeat once again, nowadays the only option for selfless action is to serve not oneself and not only God, but to serve the whole society in general. If a person limits their service only to God and doesn't want to help people, this is pure passion, not pure goodness. And if a person considers a human as God and wants to serve only this person while rejecting everyone else, this is already degradation. It happens sometimes that a person confuses God with a human. There is faith in God, this is pure goodness. Faith in a human means passion, but not in the personality cult. What does passion mean? Passion means a woman believes in her husband, in children. A man believes in his wife, in children. People believe in their government, not in God. This is passion. Or people believe in their nation, their people. This is all passion. They don't believe in God, but in a nation, in people. This means passion. What is faith in degradation? Faith in degradation is when a person believes only in themselves, in their own strength. Family and children are not important to them. They need all this just to enjoy life. This person believes only in themselves. This is called degradation, or simply believing in nothing. They say, I don't believe in anything. This means believing in oneself. This person doesn't say they believe in themselves, but that's how it really is. If you don't believe in anything, it means you only believe in yourself. To understand what faith is, you need to understand that faith has two layers. Every person in life has two layers. One layer is the faith that is imposed on us from the past. We had some kind of faith through many lives. And the second layer is the faith we've accepted in our heart. For example, you listened to the lectures and said, I want to believe in God. Wonderful, this is your choice, and you will definitely come to this with time. But you still have a second layer of faith hidden from your eyes. This is most likely faith in passion. That means you probably believe in your children, or in your husband, or in an apartment, or something else. In other words, faith in an apartment means comfort. So faith in money is also faith in passion. There may be faith in some kind of power that will help you. Money is power. How to determine your faith? For example, if you're not busy with anything, you have free time, you're relaxed and think about personal benefits of some kind, you're in passion. During this time, people think about sex, they think about a new apartment, about their children, about their husband, if they experience happiness from these objects, of course. For these people, their hidden faith, their secret faith is in passion. If a person thinks about nothing, relaxes, and only thinks about God, this means that their secret faith, hidden faith, is also about God, and this means that this person will definitely go to spiritual reality, or they will go very high in the material world and will continue their spiritual life again. So what do I think about when I'm not busy with anything? This is how you can learn about your hidden faith, or in other words, where you're heading. Let's say a person is not busy, goes to bed, thinks, everything is bad, everyone is jinxed, nuclear war is coming soon, everyone will be chipped. If a person thinks about this, it means their hidden faith is faith in degradation. This means that they lived in degradation in their past life. They themselves want to believe in God, but when they relax, they become afraid, start thinking, soon I'll be robbed, I'll be attacked. That means they have some degraded thoughts constantly spinning in their head. This means that their faith is in degradation, and it's hidden from their eyes. But the apparent faith that they chose still takes over if they move forward. One shouldn't despair if deep in their heart their faith remains in degradation. It's very important to understand one thing here, that you shouldn't create illusions for yourself, you understand? If you have some hidden faith that sits somewhere deep in your heart, then in this case you shouldn't despair. You just need to keep moving forward, and that's it. Don't pay attention to this faith that's hidden from sight. The main principle of interacting with fate is not to be scared, remember it. The main principle of interacting with fate, don't be surprised by anything. Don't be scared of anything. Move forward. Don't be afraid of anything. Always try to overcome your fate. That's it. This is the principle. If you move forward, then everything will be fine. If you don't move forward, then it won't be fine. You will be defeated by fate. That means you can't be frightened, you can't be afraid, you can't be disappointed, you can't lie down if you've fallen. This is always the principle of interaction with fate. Because fate is not as heavy as it actually seems if you're not afraid of it. Remember this, 30% of fate's heaviness is our fear. If we don't want to be afraid, we overcome fear. This is the principle of life concerning the right relationship with fate. That means always moving forward, not being afraid of anything, always trying to overcome fate. The next topic I would like to discuss with you is generally related to what kinds of activities exist. We need to understand that there are different types of activities. For instance, there is activity in pure goodness, and it should be performed in a certain way. Activity in pure goodness is performed according to the instructions of the Scriptures, meaning a person acts according to the Scriptures. Furthermore, a person tries their best to act without attachment to anyone except God, without sympathy or antipathy towards anyone, and without desire to enjoy the fruits. For example, if I'm giving a lecture thinking, how much money will I get paid? Then in this case, it's not activity in pure goodness, it's activity in passion. Activity in pure goodness means a person does something for people's happiness. They want to bring them happiness. Of course, we have different desires in our heart. They exist, nothing can be done about them, but they shouldn't dominate. It's very important to understand this. For example, when I give lectures, all this money goes to spiritual life, and therefore there are no problems with this. Maybe I would have had some desires if I took all this money for myself. Well, I just resolved this issue for myself and don't worry about it. But not everyone can live like this, because sometimes a person doesn't have enough money to live, and they should understand that even in this case they still shouldn't focus on this specifically. They should think about fulfilling their duty to people, otherwise their activity becomes an activity in passion, and it doesn't bring success in life. That's the problem. If a person thinks about money and not about people, then they can't be successful in this case. Life in passion is not a successful life. Some people say, what about success? Success is passion. No, success doesn't mean passion. Defeat means passion. What does passion lead to? First stage, inspiration. Second, fatigue. Third, breakdown. Fourth, degradation, or transition to pure goodness at the fourth stage. If you're tired of dying, then start living in pure goodness. How to live in pure goodness? Don't experience the influence of lower energies of consciousness. Work with great determination. Try to benefit people. Act with enthusiasm. These are signs of activity in pure goodness. Don't waver. Try not to waver in success and failure. If you're wavering, you still need to try not to waver when you face success and failure. Now about activity in passion. First, such activity requires enormous efforts, because a person in passion always sets more goals than they can achieve. That means that a person in passion lives in illusion, in dreams. They don't know reality, they don't want to be content with what God has given them, and they always want more. This means passion. A person doesn't understand that happiness is already near us. We have all the earth, we have grass, we have trees, flowers. While radiation hasn't destroyed it all yet, all of this exists. There's a river right now. Whether there will be radiation tomorrow or not, that's for God to decide. It's not our business. We can enjoy flowers now, enjoy birds. This means activity in pure goodness. Life in pure goodness. No need to think about the future. When a person constantly lives in the future, they don't see the blue dew. You understand? They constantly think about their affairs. They can't set their mind to going for a run or swimming in the river. They can't shift their mind. They constantly think about having more material goods. Then suddenly they die. You know, like a badger that constantly saws trees and wants to make its dwelling bigger. There will be no forest left around, there will be no nature, the river will be blocked and turns to a swamp. Then it won't be possible to breathe there, and the badger will die. When a person always worries, their life is similar to a badger's life. First they lose themselves, then their health, then no one wants to live with a sick and unhappy person. They get abandoned, and so on. So activity in passion requires enormous efforts. It's ultimately directed only at one's own personal happiness. Because the happiness of my children and my family is also my personal happiness. Be aware of this, because human egoism acts in two directions. The first direction is related to me, and the second direction is related to everything I consider mine. That means my wife, my children. I don't live for myself, but for my children. Therefore, I'm in pure goodness. No, you live for yourself. You don't live for other people's children. If you lived for children in general and gave your life to them, that would be activity in pure goodness. But if you live for your own children, this is an activity in passion. You'll say, children need to eat. Am I a bad person if I take care of my own children? No one is forcing you. You need to fulfill duties to your children, but do it according to God's laws. When a person does everything according to God's laws, they ultimately live for God. You understand? No one is telling you to abandon your duties. They need to be fulfilled, but in the right consciousness. For example, if you're cooking food, pray to God. Don't cook for your husband, but think about God, and then your husband will get blessed food that will be even better. Of course, cook what suits your husband. Don't feed him with such an attitude. It's blessed food. Eat what you're given. So he eats, chokes, and from a spiritual point of view, he'll get enormous benefit because it's blessed food. But from a health perspective, he's already having cramps because this food doesn't suit him. Eat, it's blessed food. This is wrong. That means we should also consider the person's needs. Meaning God likes it when we cook in a way that keeps a person healthy. God likes this because He lives in this person's body, cares about this person. Therefore, when you cook for God, you should also consider the needs of a person's body. You understand? But think about God while doing so, because where a person's thoughts are directed, there lies their fate. Think about God when cooking for your husband. This is called life in pure goodness. Or when you're working, for example, of course you need to think about work at work. But if possible, listen to spiritual music. Wish happiness to all people. If possible, do things in a way that makes everyone happy. This is the right way of thinking. Distract yourself, from your work, if possible. If you need to work with high concentration, then do your work for the benefit of all living beings. Fulfill your duties. If you can't think about God during work, then do it for the benefit of all living beings. Not for your own benefit, but for everyone's benefit. You'll ask, what's the difference? The difference is that when you do something for your own benefit, during this activity you don't consider the benefit of others. And when you do it for everyone's benefit, it makes both you and people feel good. That's the difference. Meaning you need to act for the benefit of all living beings, not just for your own benefit. This is activity in pure goodness. When a person is in passion, their actions are driven by a sense of false ego. They follow some false principles. That means they're always conflicting. And a person is attached to the activity they perform. That means they're afraid to lose something and become dependent on this activity. Of course, you should value your work, but you shouldn't be attached to it. For example, if you're told you might get fired, you shouldn't shake from this, humiliate yourself before the management. You need to understand that this is God's will and treat everyone kindly. It's nothing terrible. Anything can happen in life. This is very important. A person in passion is attached to the results of activities they perform and acts driven by the desire to enjoy the fruits of their labor. This is their motivation. For example, how does a person in passion work? They're told, rejoice in people, rejoice in God, and they want to rejoice, but can't. But when they're told that their salary has increased by $1,000, they think, oh, now I can work. They're joyful. They want to believe in God, of course, but are mainly motivated by money. This is life in passion. As soon as they're given more money, they immediately start working joyfully. When there's no money, there's no joy. We also need to understand that seniors can also be in passion. That means giving less than a person deserves is also not good. So a senior should also take care of juniors. They should give as much money as a person deserves. This is also important to understand. A person in passion worries a lot about their salary. If they don't get it, they immediately go on strikes and so on. They don't care why they didn't get their salary. If, of course, they didn't get it because of theft, then strikes are normal. But if it's just a crisis, then endure it. This is your fate. Later, everything will be fine. Otherwise, you will lose your job and the factory will close because of your strike. Everything becomes even worse. A person in passion is envious while performing actions. When someone else does something better and one thinks, I can't stand this, this means envy. There's no purity in performing actions. A person in passion sometimes swears. There's no purity, no pure perception of the world during their actions. The person gets fixated during work. And the person is subject to strong mood swings during work. Activities in degradation are performed in illusion. A person believes in something that doesn't exist. For example, people are told, let's chip in, invest this money, and we'll get enormous wealth. But there won't be any wealth, you'll just go broke. And people believe in this. All kinds of fraud are made up for these ignorant people. Some companies are created specifically for such people. That means some companies are created for such foolish people who simply believe that they'll get wealth if they give their money there. They earned money through honest work, but they lost it due to their faith in degradation. Why? Because there are con artists who count on those people who believe in miracles. Or they constantly play sports lottery or some other lottery. That means that they believe that now they will play this lottery and they'll get a lot of money. And the lottery is specifically designed so that at first, when a person starts playing, they win. Moreover, they win as many times as needed to lure a person's consciousness to make them believe that it's possible. If a person, let's say, won the lottery, they can't stop. They think, if I win, then this is already my money. But the question is, what will you do with this money? People in degradation cannot help but gamble. People continue to play the lottery again. They can't help but try to play again with the same money. They just can't stop. This is how the consciousness of people in degradation works. But people in pure goodness won't play the lottery. Why would they need it? They simply believe in their fate, that a person should be content with what they have. Therefore, everything is calculated. There are such gullible people. They exist, such believers in empty promises. That's why there are those who take advantage of this. These are also people in degradation, by the way. Naturally, in this case, such activity violates the instructions of the scriptures because the scriptures say, don't gamble, it's not good, you'll get a negative result. Gambling means that you play and get something in return. Let's say people just played volleyball. It's just a game, nothing wrong with that. But if they bet, playing for money, then it's already gambling. This is dangerous because all kinds of fights begin, and everything else of the kind. Furthermore, the action is performed without considering the negative consequences. That means that a person, let's say, decided to eat dumplings on a bet. You can bet who eats more dumplings. This is a dangerous bet because one dumpling can block your intestines. It can be excessive. When you're excited, you don't understand this, and then suddenly you eat one more dumpling and it falls out of your mouth because it's excess, but you push it back in because you must win. Your rival can't eat that dumpling anymore, but you can. So you ate it and died. Well, that means the other person stayed alive because one couldn't do it, but you died, yet you won. That means that action without considering negative consequences is called action in degradation. Or someone decided to have sex. One girl comes to me at a lecture crying and says, I'm pregnant. She's about 17 years old, she's crying, her mother is standing nearby. I say, well, being pregnant is good, you'll have a baby. She says, but I didn't want to. I say, well, there's nothing to be done. And she says, I even used contraceptives. Well, sex is actually meant for conceiving children, not for anything else. But you act without considering these factors. You have sex with a reproductive man who can conceive a child, and sperm can even bypass these contraceptives. Because in the sperm there is a soul, and it wants to live. It encountered an obstacle in the form of some rubber barrier or something else. And it simply bypasses this obstacle because it's a conscious desire of a living being to live. And it bypasses the obstacle and reaches its goal, and you're pregnant, so you shouldn't have done it. She's crying. I don't want to. She shouldn't have done it without considering the negative consequences of actions. Or someone got AIDS. Who forced you? You shouldn't have done it. Strong desire means degradation. When desire is stronger than intelligence, this is already degradation. Action that involves violence, meaning when a person commits violence while performing an action, this is an action in degradation. It will bring negative consequences. Actions that cause suffering to other living beings are also negative actions that result in negative consequences. Deceiving is a negative action and brings negative consequences. Inflicting all kinds of insults when performing actions is also wrong, and when a person performs actions in laziness, this is also an action in degradation. And the depressed state also means degradation, or postponing everything for later. This is also life in degradation. These are actions performed in a degraded way. That means there are three types of action. In general, there is physical action. Physical action most often gives quick karmic results and most often very harsh results, well, either positive or negative. For example, today I ran 16 kilometers. That means if I'm a trained person, it will improve my health. If I'm untrained, I'll simply die from this distance. Well, you see, in other words, physical action can bring either good or bad results. It can affect in either way. That's why you need to have knowledge. Or let's say you hit someone in the face, you'll get the same back if they're a strong person, and if they're weak, you won't. Physical action always gives quick consequences to a person. Of course, there will be long-term consequences too, but there are always definitely immediate ones. There is physical action, there are actions through thoughts, and there are actions through speech. Three types of action in total. For example, when a person acts through speech, that's an action. It doesn't give immediate consequences, but the consequences can be much worse. Let's say a person didn't say anything but signed a document. This document can lead to war. The whole country will go to war. War will begin. Therefore, action through speech or action through decision-making is the most powerful action and gives the biggest consequences. Let's say a person is a ruler of a country. He can't kill everyone by himself with his own power. Physical action won't be possible to perform in this case. But if he signs documents, this action is much more powerful because in this case, the whole country will go to war. Of course, I can't say that such actions should never be performed. Sometimes they're possible. What's better? It's better, of course, to perform actions correctly. Sometimes war is needed, sometimes peace. All of this is natural. You just need to understand the principle that physical action gives quick results, but most often it's weaker than action through words or action through documents or decision-making. There are also actions in the mind. This action is the most tolerable, the easiest, and most insignificant. A person can think 1,000 times about leaving his wife. But if he doesn't leave in the end, then everything is fine. But actions in the mind are also actions. It's not just thinking. A person says, I just thought about it. What did I do? First, when you thought about it, it showed on your face. And your wife doesn't experience happiness from this. Love diminishes in your relationship. Thoughts influence the situation. Secondly, if you think about it 5 times, then your desire to do it gradually increases. This is also an action. Action in the mind also exists. Therefore, you need to somehow limit and control your mind. Regarding action through speech, if we talk about action in general, there is physical action, action in the mind, and action through speech. Now we will list what parts of the body are involved in different actions. And this implies different options. Here's the tongue. It can act both through speech and physically. For instance, when a person speaks, it's an action of the tongue. It acts through speech. The action of the tongue, speech, either increases or decreases the power of intelligence. If speech leads to something good, then the power of intelligence increases. And if speech leads to defeat, problems, then the power of intelligence decreases from this. And when a person eats, it's a physical action of the tongue. And the consequences will also be quick. If you eat something wrong, you get poisoned. You can understand what happens next, unless you throw up it quickly. If you don't, then face the consequences. If it's the wrong food, it can lead up to death. Anything can happen. Activity with genitals increases the purity of intelligence if a person observes celibacy. That means there are 2 types of action related to genitals. The first type of action is cleansing of the body. It's always the same. And here are also 2 options. For example, when you need to urinate but hold it for long, it's unfavorable for the body. This increases intoxication. Action with genitals can cleanse the body when you release unnecessary substances or increase intoxication when you don't do it. And there's another type of action with genitals. This is sex. Sex is purely physical action. And in this physical action, there are 2 options. First option, if you abstain from sex, you increase the purity of intelligence. Conception is also considered abstinence. Sex for conceiving children doesn't decrease the purity of intelligence. God likes such action, and therefore he doesn't decrease people's purity of intelligence. Action with genitals increases the purity of intelligence if you restrict it, and if you let loose, then, conversely, the purity of intelligence decreases. A person who allows themselves too much sexual life will become unreasonable, a foolish person. Action with hands increases the power of the mind. What is action with hands? It's always some activity related to production. Action with hands means work. In fact, a person always works with their hands. It's very rare when hands are not involved in work. Let's say a person is a singer. They're not working with their hands, but mainly if you need to do something, you always use your hands, for example, pressing buttons on a computer or crafting something with your hands. Most often work means mental activity. Concerning one's qualification, when a person says, I'm a good specialist, this doesn't mean you have strong intelligence. This means you have a strong mind. High qualification work experience is a sign of mind. All this is activity of the mind that involves hands. It increases the power of the mind. Activity with legs increases or decreases the power of prana. If a person doesn't walk, doesn't use their legs, doesn't run, it means they will be a weak person and will live a short life. If they walk and run, then they will live long, will be a strong person. Activity with the anus increases body strength if a person acts correctly. And if incorrectly holds it, doesn't want to go to the bathroom, then conversely, it decreases body strength, toxins accumulate. If a person engages in sex through the anus, this is nonsense. And in this case, they are paving their way to hell. Because this is called sexual perversion, this is forbidden sexual activity. The anus represents the lower planets. One needs to be very careful with it. For example, when a person has used the bathroom, it's better to wash the body. Rinse, spray water on the whole body, because this action is connected with lower energies. Therefore, one needs to be very careful when contacting this zone on a subtle level. And if people engage in sex this way, it's a direct path to hell, because people enjoy the lower centers in this way, enjoy this zone. You should know everything that I listed: tongue, hands, genitals, legs, anus. These are 5 parts of the body that are connected with activity in general. These are called organs of action. And there are also senses of cognition. There are 5 senses. A person performs 5 types of actions. These are actions with tongue, genitals, hands, legs, anus. These are 5 actions. And there are also 5 senses of cognition. These 5 senses of cognition are connected with different parts of our existence. For instance, the sense of hearing is the highest. It's connected with intelligence. Therefore, spiritual life always means listening. Remembering involves the sense of hearing. You can remember what you've heard. All spiritual life is based on a sense of hearing. Sound increases the power of intelligence. The sense of hearing is connected with the power of intelligence. Tactile sense increases the purity of intelligence. Tactile sense also means sex. If you restrict it, the purity of your intelligence increases. If you wear dirty clothes, if you keep your tactile sense in dirt and also engage in excessive sex, then the purity of intelligence will suffer from this. The next sense is the sense of sight. It's connected with the mind. If a person's sense of sight is in purity, it means their mind is in purity. This means they will be in a good mood. What does it mean to keep the sense of sight in purity? It means not watching nonsense TV shows, for example. When you turn on cable television and watch various detective shows, this means you allow your eyesight be befouled. If you watch all kinds of nonsense, then don't be surprised why bad thoughts enter your head. Bad thoughts mean the mind is impure because a person looks where they shouldn't. And if a person looks at the beauty of this world, wishes happiness to everyone, notices only good things, doesn't pay attention to bad things, then they keep their mind in purity, in the right state. The next sense is the sense of taste. It's connected not with the mind but with prana, a person's subtle energy. And if a person eats tasty food, they receive a lot of strength. And if they eat tasteless food, they receive little strength. One should know that tasty food can be in pure goodness, in passion, and in degradation. And accordingly, there are different types of strength. If you eat tasty meat, it means there will be strength, but no intelligence. What kind of strength will it be? The kind that will destroy your life. It will go in the wrong direction. If you eat too spicy, too hot, too fried, too sweet food, overeat late in the evening, if you eat incorrectly, you will have strength, but in passion. And you will become an impulsive person, not restrained. For example, sweet taste increases laziness in a person. Sour taste increases sensitivity to offense. Bitter taste increases depression. We are talking about excessive tastes because normal amounts of these tastes give health. Salty taste makes a person tense. Fatty food increases laziness. Astringent food gives excessive tone to a person, and so on. In other words, everything excessive is passion, and when a person eats food in pure goodness, eats correctly, they receive strength, health, and happiness. Do everything right, and you will be happy. The sense of smell is designed for contact with everything related to the body. If you think about it, why does a person need to smell? What to smell? Why smell? For example, smell food in order to eat it. So if it were possible to eat without smelling, then there would be no need for a sense of smell. It turns out that by taste alone, it's impossible to determine if food is poisonous or not. The taste can be delicious, but you can die from this food. But if you smell it, you will definitely determine that this food is poisonous and it is not suitable for you. Therefore, if you have doubts about food, smell it. If you feel a bad smell, don't eat it. There are definitely bacteria or something else there. So you can definitely determine by smell. For example, cobra venom crystals don't smell at all. They have a neutral smell, no smell. But when you smell them, they smell of death. Whatever is dangerous for you will still have a smell. You will never make a mistake when you smell. Also, the smell of a close person. For example, if the smell of a close person's body has changed, it means some kind of serious illness. They need to be taken to a doctor. If you come to some place and there's a bad smell there, you don't like it, it's disgusting, don't eat there, you'll get sick. This means that the energy in this place is not suitable for you, or it is in degradation. If you feel a bad smell where you live, it means this place is not suitable for you. This is roughly how you should treat smell. Everything I'm telling you helps to overcome one's fate. Any action has 2 important aspects. The first aspect is the effort itself that you make, and this effort depends on grace, the weight of karma, and understanding of the goal. If a person strongly understands the goal, their karma is not too heavy, and there is a lot of grace, then they always achieve success through their own effort. And it's very important to understand that a person who only believes in their own efforts always loses to fate, because there is also a second aspect of action which depends very strongly on faith. At some point you need to switch from your own efforts to faith, and if these are combined simultaneously, you believe in God and make your own efforts, then this is an absolutely invincible situation. You always need to take action yourself. If there are people who only rely on God, most likely they will lose in life because they don't do anything. God doesn't like this. He will test them. There are people who only believe in their own efforts. They will often win in life, but ultimately will lose in the grand scheme of things. Because ultimately, to win, you always need to believe in God and make your own efforts. How to determine if a person believes in God? By their emotional state. They are in a state of strong inspiration and feel free from fear. When a person believes in God, they feel inspiration and freedom from fear. There is also material freedom from fear, called fearlessness, some kind of madness, meaning bravery. This is also not bad, but it's dangerous because sometimes a person becomes blind. When a person believes in God, they are fearless, they always know about the dangers and always overcome them. But if it's just youthful daring, then it sometimes brings victory, sometimes it brings defeat instead. Therefore, the strongest warrior is one who believes in God, acts fearlessly, applies their own efforts with all the enormous strength they have, and at the same time knows the limit of their efforts, at what moment they need to switch to faith and grace to hope for God's mercy, at what moment this needs to be done. Remember, these two things I just said are very important. You should know that speech can also influence differently. If a person just talks, it creates medium inspiration. If a person recites poetry, the inspiration is stronger. And if a person sings, this is the highest inspiration. Therefore, to inspire you a little, I sometimes play songs during the lectures. You should also know that in any activity in fate, there is such a concept as stimulus for activity. It's very important to understand this. It must be taken into account. It's also particularly important to understand that the stimulus for activity is different for men and women. For a man, the strongest stimulus for activity is challenge. He should see that other men live better than him. This challenge doesn't necessarily have to be aggressive, but he should understand his weakness, that he's somehow not measuring up. Then a man develops a stimulus for activity. But for a woman, it's the opposite. You see, the stimulus for activity always comes from other people. It won't come from oneself. For a man, the stimulus for activity is a challenge. And for a woman, the stimulus for activity is love and harmony. When you treat women kindly, then they respond in kind and are stimulated to action. If you tell a woman, let's go running, she won't go. But if you say, my dear, let's go running, it will help your health. She will think and say, well, let's go running. She will be inspired. She needs to feel that no one is forcing her. Then a woman feels comfortable, and you need to persuade her with love all the time. If a man says, that's it, you will marry me, even if the woman, the girl, loves him, she will say, no, I won't, and leave. She won't agree because she feels she's being forced. But if he says, I love you, I want to take responsibility for you. If you want, think about it. Maybe you would agree to marry me. He says, make a decision. And even when a woman makes a decision in this case, she doesn't impose it. She might make a positive decision, for example, or a negative decision. She won't say, I want to marry you. She won't speak like that. Why? Because a woman's psyche is very delicate. She doesn't like direct decisions. She's afraid of becoming dependent or causing harm. Therefore, she does everything carefully. Therefore, you need to treat a woman delicately, not force her. You need to speak kindly so that she becomes inspired to act. And most often women can do this. It's easier for women to do this than for men. Therefore, women should inspire women. Men should challenge men in a kind way by saying, I go running and you? I don't. Really? Well, that's what I thought. And hang up the phone. Then he calls again and says, I go for a run. And the other man says, I don't. I'm getting sick. The other one says, well, it happens because you don't run. I run and I don't get sick. That's how a man can gradually inspire another man. But a woman shouldn't challenge a man. She should speak kindly to her husband just as she would speak to another woman. Let's go running together. So she treats a man in a feminine way. And a man treats a woman in a feminine way too. It's better not to use masculine energies in personal life. Masculine energies are needed in business relationships. If you kindly tell a woman, let's work today, she will think and say, no, I won't work today. In business matters, we use masculine energies, but in personal life, feminine ones. But friendship between men is about challenge. It's not like when a man says, let's go running, the other man says, let's do it. And then the next day, neither of them gets up to go for a run. Why? Because that's how female energies work. They just got relaxed. You should do the opposite. Make your decision, I'm going for a run, and do that. That means that you need to activate male energies. You need to understand that it's impossible to live without motivation to act. People say, Dr. Torsunov, I have a bad fate. What should I do? If you have a bad fate, you should understand that you don't have faith in God. Because when a person has faith in God, they don't say, I have a bad fate. They simply go to the temple, go to the place where people pray, read and listen to the scriptures, repeat prayers, and so on. When a person has faith in God, they don't complain about fate. They know there is a limit to my efforts beyond which grace begins. At some point, you need to start receiving grace, nourish yourself with it. That means that you need to get motivation to act. Any bad fate can be overcome by your faith. What does God actually do? He neutralizes bad fate because it's an energy subordinate to Him. Fate is actually God's energy. And if you start thinking about God, fate loses its power. It can't do anything about it. And this is how people overcome their fate. That means that the more you believe in God, the weaker fate's impact becomes. And fate has a time limit on its action. That means that if during this period of time you keep thinking about God, the period of bad fate ends, and it can't do anything about it. If you have a death threat that lasts, let's say 10 days, and you spend all 10 days in prayer, fate has no chance to cause you an accident, because you don't give it such chances. You just live in prayer. This is how a person can avoid death. So such methods exist. A death threat doesn't mean you'll definitely die. This is incorrect thinking. You can remove this threat completely through prayer. You pray and simply remove this threat. It's gone. You just need to understand the principle. Prayer means remembrance of God, you understand? If you pray and feel fear in your heart, are afraid of fate, feel bad from this fear, constantly think about fate. This is not prayer. This is a useless activity. Prayer means that something strongly inspires you in life, and inspiration means it shifts your memory. For memory to shift, you need to help your memory focus on God. To help with this, there exists such a concept as asceticism practice. For example, when a person prays, they should not move. This is asceticism practice. That means you should sit and not move. This asceticism practice helps memory engage in prayer and forget about one's sufferings. The next type of asceticism practice helps overcome fate when you have thoughts spinning in your head. Go for a walk or run and listen to lectures during this time. When a person walks, they generate a willpower impulse that helps overcome thoughts. Fate can come in the form of despair, let's say. It seems that nothing can be done. Then sit still, don't move, pray. And if you need to understand something in life, understand how to do something, what to do, this or that, then you need to run or walk and listen to lectures. And during this time, while you're walking, you're making a willpower effort. This willpower effort breaks through degradation. You need to distract yourself from your problems and just walk and listen to lectures again and again. You should walk and listen to lectures or spiritual music. And at some point, suddenly it hits you. You understand what to do. This is the principle. It happens that a person just has brain fog. They can't figure anything out. They don't understand what to do. Then in this case, a person needs prayer and fasting. That means you don't eat anything. Water fasting is the mildest type of fasting, and it helps to cleanse your consciousness to become clear-headed. When you're completely confused in life, you shouldn't make any decision. You just don't know why you live, for what purpose, with whom you live. Then at this time, water fasting and prayer will help. When a person is water fasting and praying, at some point they understand why they live, for what purpose and with whom. That means everything in their head becomes clear. In other words, it means prayer always needs support, and such first support is inspiring prayer of a holy person or simply exalted people. Inspiring prayer is a support because it attracts your memory to itself. And the second support is asceticism practice. There are 3 types of asceticism practice: fasting, continuous movement. For example, someone says, I move in the kitchen all day and listen to lectures. That's not what you need. You need to move straight forward, move to achieve victory. Not move to do things, but move continuously. Thus, you'll be performing an asceticism practice. While performing asceticism practice, a person should do nothing else during this time. This means victory over fate. That means when you're overcoming fate, you should only pray and do nothing else. Maintain a stationary position of the body, listen to those who pray, and pray simultaneously with them. I've explained to you how to overcome fate through prayer. These are the stages. The first stage, a person becomes strongly attached to those who pray, forgets about themselves. That means you must tune in to the voice of those who pray, believe in this voice, feel its power, feel that it helps you. When you felt this, that's the first stage. Your intelligence has already attached itself not to fate, but to prayer. In the second stage, you start to repeat. You should understand, to listen intently, you also need to repeat. If you repeat and don't listen, then it's the mind listening, not intelligence. You need to repeat as they do. It means intelligence is working. Mind works through memory. while intelligence works through sound. Therefore, you need to repeat as they do and listen very intently. That means in the first stage, you invest yourself in listening. Then further, when you fully engage in listening, you believe in their prayer, you're inspired by it, you start to repeat as they do. In the second stage, your repetition becomes strong. That means you feel inspiration when you repeat the prayer together with them. This means your intelligence starts to fill with prayer, becoming stronger. And when intelligence becomes strong enough, it goes into the heart, where fate resides, and starts to push fate out. It starts to press on it and calm it down, because fate rages. Fate says, everything is bad, prayer won't help, soon everyone will be chipped. The mind screams under the influence of fate, but you say, no, Hare Krishna, or Allah Akbar, or Hallelujah. That means you repeat the prayer. You think about God, and then suddenly you feel such calmness in your heart. You realize, I am a soul. How can they chip me? They chip the body, and the body is subject to fate, not to rulers. That means whatever fate decides, that's how it will be. What does everything else have to do with it? That means a person has such an enlightenment, and they think, wow, great, absolutely great, and so on. That means you pray, up to the point when calmness comes, when fate recedes, and you have calmness in your heart. After calmness, knowledge comes, the most genuine knowledge. Knowledge says, there will be a nuclear war here, but you should just move to another place and live there. Nothing will happen there. That's it. That's cool. Absolutely great. Or let's say, you get knowledge like this. They pass such a law that all children must get vaccinated. Well, you can bypass it in a certain way, as if you got vaccinated, but there's actually no vaccination. Prayer calms a person down, and they know exactly what to do. God gives them hints, and so on. That means there are different options, but in general, you need to understand that fate always scares a person. So if you're scared, it means fate has done its job. And if you're not scared, everything is normal with you, then everything is fine. The next point that needs to be understood. If you've already encountered fate, that means you've progressed in prayer. You've calmed down, your heart has calmed down. This means you've only approached it. Look, fate comes out, it starts to rage. But if you want to overcome it completely, there's something else after calmness. That means calmness indicates that you've approached the zone from which fate operates. In other words, fate has some kind of a city, and it comes out of the gates to attack you, and your psyche becomes restless. But when you've overcome the attack, fate goes back in and slams the gates. This sphere is closed, what's inside is unclear, but you're calm outside. This means that this energy of bad fate doesn't affect you. If you want to enter the sphere, you can go further. That means you can listen to prayer, continue to listen intently to those who pray, and be sure that at some point something will open up in your heart. Your heart will open up, and your prayer will begin from the heart. It will come from the heart. Then you don't need to listen carefully to those who pray. Listen to your heart, but don't forget that they are helping you. Pray with them too. After opening the heart, a person listens to their own voice during prayer. Their intelligence is very strong at this time. And at this moment, when the heart has opened, you go further. And where do you reach? You reach this turbulent sea, as I call it. Bad fate hasn't gone anywhere. And at this moment, a swarm of thoughts flies at you, and you completely forget that you are praying. And again, these memories of bad things arise. Again, you've discovered them. And during this time, you need to force yourself to listen to those who pray. Remembering God, you gradually begin to calm the situation right in the depth of the sphere in your heart. This is called the first stage of overcoming fate. When you pass through it, you feel calm, you feel great, and the next day it doesn't bother you much either. But this is only the first stage, 33%. You need to go through the rest. There are 3 circles of fate's impact. This is the first circle. The second circle is between people. Fate always acts through someone. It happens between people, between me and the boss, between me and the child, between me and the wife, between me and someone else. There are threads of fate. These threads of fate are already the deep inner part of the sphere. And you enter these threads when the second circle of overcoming fate begins. It happens between people. That means the thread is not only inside the sphere, but it's between people. And you go along it, cleansing it. What does this cleansing look like? First, you can talk calmly with a person. This means you've cleansed the first part of the thread. Then they can talk calmly with you. Then the attitude towards you changes. This happens when you enter the third circle of fate. You can communicate normally, but maintain your own opinions. This already means that you've cleansed your fate. Then comes the change from within. Change from within means that the person themselves changes their attitude towards you. Their own attitude changes towards you. And therefore there are 3 circles of life, 3 circles of fate. A person can change their decision, and if they haven't changed their decision, for example, the husband says, I won't return to you, although I know I'm wrong. That means you've overcome fate. In this case, God will give you another person. If you've overcome fate, you don't depend on the other person. Many people perceive fate incorrectly. They think, everything's because of him. He won't return. I'll remain alone. It's complete nonsense. And I don't need another man for my children. This is also nonsense. God will give you your own man, not a stranger. If the husband left, another man may appear who will be a real father for them, a true one. Don't limit God's possibilities. You just need to overcome fate. If your husband left, pray. Either he'll return or God will give another one. But you need to understand the principle. A person never overcomes fate by escaping to the desert. They go back. Let's say a relationship was destroyed. Go back into this relationship. This means overcoming fate. Go back into this relationship. I don't want to go back to my husband. This means you're abandoning him. It means you'll be punished. Okay, I'm going back to him. Going back means to pray to overcome fate. Then at the first stage, you feel calm. Okay, everything's fine. He's a good person. Then at the second stage, you're already communicating, being friends. At the third stage, he changes his behavior, his attitude towards you, and you have a normal life again. And if he doesn't want to return, then God will give you another man. Overcoming fate means returning. If he's already married, how can I return to him? He already has children. Then just make amends, return to this situation in your consciousness. Say, I was wrong, all this happened in vain. Make amends. And this is how you return. You calm the situation, you improve your relationship with this person, then he changes his attitude towards you, and then God gives you another man. Such is the sequence. But this sequence goes through prayer. Remember, everything I'm telling you now has nothing to do with the head of a praying person. The person just thinks about God and that's all. Everything else happens by itself. God himself arranges everything. And how should we relate to our fate? We should relate like this. If we had the strength for everything to be good, then God would definitely make everything good. He's not stingy. Most likely we don't have the strength for this, and therefore we should simply accumulate strength through prayer, through good deeds, accumulate strength to overcome fate, and then God will do everything as needed by himself. He will influence through fate, no need to control anything. By the way, you can control too. If a person prays, thinks about God, and simultaneously feels these connections, these threads in their heart, this is also normal. You can do this. You can control the situation, but you need to learn to do this. It's not simple. How is this different from hypnosis? Going back. Hypnosis means you don't need to do anything. Just believe some wicked man. This is called faith in passion, or in degradation, because there is also faith in degradation. If this wicked man behaves like God, he says, I can change your next life without problems. Then it is called faith in degradation. Regarding the next life, do we choose our next life or not? No one chooses their next life, my dear friends. I gave you a lecture on the laws of reincarnation and told you that first, a person faces God's judgment. This is proclaimed in all religions, and there they tell you what you did and what you will receive, and then you go where you need to go. And even God's judgment can lead to God's mercy. If you prayed a lot, you can be forgiven. Can you imagine? This is also possible. But only if you served God, and if not, no one will show mercy to you. Therefore, a person does not choose their next birth. We can only choose it through right living. What? I can't choose my next birth? You can choose it if you live correctly. There is another way to choose your next birth, but I don't recommend this method to you. Here's how it looks. If you constantly think about your cat, care only about your cat. My beloved kitty, I love you, and only think about the cat your whole life, then you'll be born as a cat in your next life. This is 100% true, I assure you. If you only think about your cat and nothing else, you'll be born as a cat in your next life. This is 100% sure. Once one holy person said, this is how you can be born as a cat, and one woman raised her hand and said, I want to be born as a cat. He said, I bless you, no problem. This means she will definitely be born as a cat, because she received the blessing of a holy person. One has to be really foolish to say such things to a holy person. A foolish person, completely foolish person. There is a choice. Either you lead a devout life and reach the higher planets. God gives you the life that you deserve. The second choice option is life in degradation. If you think about alcohol, you'll be born as an animal. Think about a cat, you'll be born as a cat. Think about a dog, you'll be born as a dog, and so on. There is a choice, but it's not made with the help of a hypnotist. The hypnotist says we should go there, and we go there as if the hypnotist were God. No, this is nonsense. This is just self-suggestion. It ends after death. There is a ruler of death. He says, I don't care what the hypnotist said. You performed such actions. You committed them. For this, you will receive this. As for the hypnotist, we're waiting for him. He'll come to us soon too. We'll tell him, for deceiving people, you'll get punished. Everything is serious in this world. One needs to be very careful with fate. And pray for your relatives just as you pray for your own fate. There's no difference. You just need to understand that when we say something in our heart, we're not saying it to ourselves but to God. And God doesn't forget anything. He doesn't have memory loss. Therefore, you don't need to repeat 10 times. You've told God or yourself, I'm praying for relatives. That's it. Forget about it. And just keep praying. All the benefits will go to the relatives. Don't doubt. No need to check if it's reaching the relatives or not. No need to test God. You said it. That's all. It goes there. Don't worry. I'm praying to love God. Good. It will be for that. God understood, and your prayer will go there. God distributes everything in our life, and we just perform actions. One should know that the Vedas describe karma. If we speak deeply about karma, it's a field of activity. The field of activity is like a tree. In this tree, there is a trunk, our highest purpose in life. There are twigs. These are our various desires. And there is wind. This is fate that sways our trunk. It can even knock it down if it's weak. To knock down means an accident. More than one bird sits on the branches of this tree of fate. A bird is a soul. 2 birds are sitting. One bird is the soul, and the other bird is God. It is called the supersoul. The Lord incarnates in every person's body in the form of the supersoul. This is figuratively called the second bird. One bird is constantly looking at the fruits on this tree. It looks and wants these fruits. That means that all people want happiness in life. All people on earth always want to enjoy their life. Everyone is looking for happiness. Nothing can be done about it. Everyone wants to enjoy. And the other bird, the supersoul, looks at the first bird and waits for this bird to pay attention to it. The highest goal of human life is to detach from the fruits, from one's happiness in this life, and turn attention to God. When a person prays, when a person studies what God said, the scriptures, studies how to live right, this is called inner life. Therefore, one needs to understand that there are 2 birds and live accordingly. These fruits are always sweet at first. On the outside, they have a sweet taste, but inside they're bitter, whatever they may be. Let's say you get a very beautiful girl. Let's consider an extreme case. Very beautiful girl, very intelligent, will always take care of you and will bring you happiness. She will dedicate all her life to you. But where's the bitter fruit? That's exactly what we need, Dr. Torsunov. Everything is great, but the bitter fruit will come later. If you chose such a girl and lived with her all your life, then in the next life you will again be waiting for such a one. But sorry, everything is according to fate. If you're not meant to have such a girl in your next life, then you'll suffer all your life thinking that you didn't get the right one. I want one like that, but I don't have one like that. All the time, even when you lose this person, if, God forbid, she passes away before you, it will be very difficult for you then. She was so good. You will only think about her and spend the rest of your life in constant torment thinking, how did I lose her? The fruits of this world are always sweet on the outside, bitter on the inside. Even the best thing that this world can give always ends in suffering. Therefore, don't get attached to anything in this world. You should live with it, of course. God gives sweet taste. Eat it. If you have a good wife, rejoice. Don't be sad. Oh, I got a good wife, so suffering will come later. There's no happiness in life. God gave you a good wife, then rejoice. Don't get attached to it. Think more about God. Don't depend on her. Rejoice when happiness comes. If you live in knowledge, you have a good wife, good children, good country. You don't get attached to anything. You know that everything can change. You just think about God all the time. Then happiness comes. You experience happiness from good people. Everything is great. If everything seems bad to you, then everything will be bad. The purpose of human life is to forget about your life, about your fate, and start thinking about God. Look at the second bird, focus on it, and then everything will be fine. Let's summarize. First, you need to know that fate is overcome through remembrance of God. Second, you should remember God without forgetting about people, without forgetting about nature. You also need to live a real life. You shouldn't become some kind of detached person. In relationships with people, you should know that the most important principle is kindness. Kindness means accepting a person as they are. You need to accept them with kindness. If you have some principles, rules, then use the rules too, but do it kindly. Don't go overboard in relation to a person. Next, you need to study how to live right. If you don't have knowledge, nothing changes. That means that lack of knowledge doesn't excuse you. You will still suffer and be responsible for it. Therefore, study how to live right. There are rules. For example, a person makes a statement like yesterday at the lecture that a person chooses their next life themselves. This is a misconception. A person doesn't choose their next life themselves. They don't give birth to themselves. They don't kill themselves. If they try to kill themselves, they will be held responsible for it. They will have to remain in the subtle energy body. They won't go anywhere until the time comes. They'll be punished in this way. In a subtle energy body, they can't touch anyone, can't say anything to anyone, but continue to stay here. In other words, our rights here in this world are limited in a certain way. Don't give yourself too much importance. Also, you shouldn't deceive people by saying that you can give knowledge to a person through hypnosis. Knowledge is acquired through asceticism practice, inner cleansing, through prayer and righteous life. A person can acquire knowledge through asceticism practice, cleansing, righteous life, prayer. Knowledge is also acquired through faith in elders. A person believes in elders and helps them. This is how they acquire knowledge. Knowledge is not acquired through suggestion and other such things. For example, you decided to transfer knowledge to your child through suggestion. You say, "Did you understand what I told you?" The child didn't understand anything but will say, "Yes, I understood." The child will say it out of fear, but there is no understanding because understanding is only transmitted through love. Kindness is the foundation of interaction with people. Remember? Kindness. Faith is the foundation of interaction with God. In relationships with people, kindness is the foundation. In relationships with nature, with this world, acceptance and love are the foundation, acceptance of this nature. For example, the wind is blowing, accept it. This is good energy for you, it helps you. It's raining, don't run from it, accept it. This is good energy for you. Winter is good, summer is good. But while accepting nature, also know that there can be excess. Make sure there's no excess so that this energy of nature doesn't overpower you. Nature is energy. You need to be careful with it. When a difficult period comes, perform asceticism practice, pray, do good deeds, find time to overcome fate. Often people just live as they can during a difficult period. They wait for it all to end. This is incorrect thinking. This can end in death or destruction. A difficult period is dangerous. Therefore, you need to make efforts to overcome it. Effort means time. Allocate time for it. If a difficult period has come, work less, do other things less, pray more, spend more time in nature, communicate more with good people. Otherwise, it might get worse, not better. Therefore, we can conclude that fate is a serious and dangerous thing. We need to study how it works and try to overcome it. Fate exists so that we can overcome it. There are no other reasons not to break us, torture us, and so on. There is no evil fate. There is just learning in this world, that's all. Fate is meant for learning. Sometimes it's very hard to learn. Fate sometimes creates very difficult obstacles, but don't get discouraged. Always know that the right attitude is already 30% of victory over fate. To learn more on the subject of health and healing of the body, please make sure to read my health guide, available for download on my YouTube channel or on my Instagram page. Thank you very much, and see you soon.